The Airbus A340 is a technological marvel which was introduced in March 1993, and so why this aircraft has never been a great success as it should be. Stay tuned. In order to compete with Boeing, Airbus needed to come up with a new aircraft after the Airbus A300. Boeing had a successful aircraft in the likes of the Boeing 707, and Airbus thought maybe it is time to have an aircraft that can go further than the Airbus A300. In addition, the DC-10 was a popular wide-body aircraft produced by McDonnell Douglas. Because of the trijet huge operating costs and also a series of air crashes, the airlines were slowly phasing off the plane and looking for a better alternative, and Airbus saw this as an opportunity. The decision was to have 4 engines instead of 2. Back then, engine technology was not so advanced, and also when the first specification came out in 1982, ETOPS operation was not yet approved, and ETOPS is a regulation that enables twin-engine aircrafts to fly over huge bodies of water without a diversion airport for more than 60 minutes. If the aircraft were to fly for more than 60 minutes over oceanic airspace, then the aircraft would have to be equipped with backup electrical systems, more fire extinguisher bottles, and so on. It was only in 1985 that the first ETOPS certification was given to Trans World Airlines TWA. In the same year, the FAA began allowing twin-engine aircraft an extension of up to 120 minutes from the nearest suitable airport. At first, on paper, this certification did not seem like a problem for the A340 to be built. After all, the cost of ETOPS certification and maintenance checks were very high. TWA spent close to $7 million to retrofit their aircraft with ETOPS specs. And so, the A340s were given the green light for development to continue, and lo and behold, ETOPS proved to be a great success, saving huge amounts of money for airlines, far outweighing its costs. For example, TWA was operating its Boeing 767 from Boston to Charles de Gaulle in Paris. The trip was saving close to 22 tons of fuel per flight. Soon, every airline decided that they would adopt ETOPS operations. In 1988, ETOPS 180 was introduced, and this allowed jets to fly up to 180 minutes away from a diversion airport. By this time, orders for the A340s has been taken, and Airbus has already started building the aircraft. It was simply a case of bad timing for Airbus. Boeing, on the other hand, took advantage of this and started to create another twin jet. They finally decided to create an aircraft that would be the fan favorite for aviators around the world, the Boeing 777. During production, the A340 secured 375 orders, while the Boeing 777 secured a whopping 2,100 orders, and it's still counting on to this day. This is close to 6 times more orders for the Boeing 777. The saving grace was that Airbus was smart enough to develop the Airbus A330s that went on to sell like hotcakes. And to date, Airbus has sold more than 1,700 Airbus A330s. Airbus wanted to secure first mover advantage and beat Boeing by producing a quad jet. But because of bad timing, this move backfired and caused the A340 to be a failure. To top it off, this jet is probably one of the most underpowered planes there is. Now, the question you might have is, why did Airbus opted to have the aircraft fitted with engines that have so little thrust? First of all, the aircraft itself is heavy because it's made out of aluminum. Some modern aircraft like the Boeing 787 is much lighter because it is built using composite materials like carbon fiber. Although it is lighter, it does have some drawbacks which I mentioned in my previous video. The A340 is weighed at 130 tons, while the Boeing 787 is weighed at 120 tons. But the Boeing 787 has 148,000 pounds of thrust, and the Airbus A340 has only 136,000 pounds of thrust. This means that the Airbus A340 requires more runway for takeoff and more time to reach cruising altitude. To put it into context, the A340 requires 1,100 feet more runway than the Boeing 787. It also takes 15 minutes longer than the Boeing 787 to reach its cruise altitude. Now let us look at the engines that this giant aircraft uses. The engines that were used are the CFM56-5C engines. These engines are the most popular engines to date, with more than 30,000 of them being built, and those engines are also used to power the Boeing 737 Classic, the Boeing 737NG, the Airbus A320 CEO, and also the DC-8. As you can already realize, the engines are much more suited for narrow-body aircrafts. The engine itself is small, meaning that it has a lower bypass ratio compared to other wide-body engines. And surely Airbus is smart enough to know that these engines that they choose is too small. Well, the reason why they opted for these engines was an act of desperation. The initial engine of their choice was the IAE Superfan. This new engine was supposed to have a new gearbox technology that's able to increase the bypass ratio of the engine and thus produce more thrust and also reduce the fuel burn by 20%. However, in a board meeting on the 7th of April 1987, the Superfan program was officially announced as indefinitely delayed. Further problems to the low-pressure system also caused further delays. The technical advancement of this engine was far ahead of its time, and the company could not produce the engine that they envisioned. The engine that had geared turbofan technology only made its debut in 2008, built by Pratt & Whitney. At the end of the day, the IAE Superfan project was scrapped, and this sent Airbus into a frenzy. Airbus has already accepted orders for the Airbus A340s. And so they decided to use the small CFM56 engine. In order to achieve comparable performance data to the Superfan-powered version, the wingspan was extended 2.6 meters to allow more fuel in the wing tanks. This added extra weight to the aircraft. The thrust that this engine produced is so much lower, about 10,000 pounds of thrust compared to other jets. The Airbus A340 also cruises at a slower speed, which is between Mach 0.78 to Mach 0.82. Later and newer designs of the A340s were much better as technology once again came to the rescue. The newer Airbus A340 500 and 600 uses Trent 500 engines, which is much bigger and much more efficient. These engines that is used can produce almost double the amount of thrust that the CFM56 engines can produce. But the Airbus A340s are notorious in being fuel guzzlers, and this is one of the reasons why the A340s was never really a favorite among airlines. The Boeing 777 was also one of the reasons that led Airbus to stop production of the A340s in 2011 and focusing their resources to build a more efficient twin-engine aircraft. Well, do comment in the section below what is your favorite aircraft, and I will see you in the next video.